Thank you, Judge. Thanks for coming that long distance to introduce me today. But people say, why are you going to southeastern Kentucky again? I said, well, I heard there's some Republicans down there. And we need to make sure that we are energized and we are ready to turn out. Part of winning is, you know, there are some parts of the state that aren't quite as Republican as you guys are. And we've got to vote. We can't just say, oh, we're going to rest on our laurels. We've got to get everybody out. We've got to get the vote and turn it out. And really there is a difference between us and the other side. You know, we are the party that believes in balanced budgets, strong national defense, less regulations, that government should only spend what comes in, that we should obey the Constitution, that the Bill of Rights are important, that our rights come from our Creator, and the reason government is instituted is to, actually I don't, am I coming through on this one or not? You are now. Good. Step right over here. All right, that's good, that's better. Now I have my hands free. But you know, the thing is a lot of people don't realize the purpose of government. Think that government's for this or that, but government was really instituted to protect our rights. You know, our rights come from our Creator. They're naturally ours. And we're supposed to have a small, limited government that's to protect our rights. Protect the right to contract, protect the right to trade with our neighbor, to sell things to our neighbor. But it really shouldn't be the function of government to try to regulate out of existence anybody's business. So when Barack Obama says that his goal when he ran for office was to bankrupt coal, that shouldn't be the function of government. When Hillary Clinton said just 2 months ago, we're going to put your coal miners out of business, that should not be the function of government. It's stretched throughout all of eastern Kentucky. It's a contagion, and now it's spreading to western Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky's coal business has been decimated by the federal government. And now western Kentucky's suffering it also. But it's not just the coal jobs they've gone after. We've lost good railway jobs as well. CSX Railroad laid 150 people off in the Corbin area. Maybe some people that live here. 100 people up in Ashland just lost their jobs. A couple hundred more miners just lost their job in western Kentucky. It should not be the role of government to try to bankrupt an industry. And so we have a government that's gone crazy. We have a government that's doing this by basically royal edict. The president said he has a pen, he's got a phone, he's going to jolly well do what he wants. That's not constitutional government. That's not what our founding fathers intended. It's supposed to be a balance of power, a separation of power, checks and balances. Congress is supposed to be equal to the presidency. Right now we have a president that thinks he's, and has tried to make it, such that he's 1,000 times more powerful than Congress. On immigration law, he just has said, well, he's going to ignore it. He's just going to do what he wants, and millions of people who broke the law, he's just going to ignore it. I mean, people of his ilk in San Francisco released a guy from prison who had a federal warrant waiting for him. And you know what happens in Laurel County or in Pulaski County? If someone gets released from Laurel County and there's a warrant for him in Pulaski, you think they just put him out on the street? Heck no. You transfer them, and if they're wanted in Ohio, do you think we just release them? No. How can we let a city like San Francisco just release somebody who's wanted for a crime, and we just say, oh, it doesn't matter because it's an immigration crime? And unfortunately, that beautiful young lady suffered from that and was murdered. That isn't the first time that that's happened. We have to have rules, and no one person, myself included, gets to change the rules. There's a process. If you want to pass a law, it takes a lot of work. As Albert can tell you, got to get to consensus. But our founding fathers knew it wouldn't be easy. But our founding fathers also didn't want us to lurch too quickly one way or the other. It's supposed to be a slow and steady process. So you get somebody out there like Uncle Bernie Sanders telling you everything's free, you know. Here comes Santa Claus, you know, with a whole bag full of gifts. We don't lurch towards socialism because it would be difficult to convince the rest of us that he makes any sense. Unfortunately, he's, you know, by himself in the Senate and there aren't any other socialists there. But it does worry me that tens of thousands of young people were turning out saying, socialism, socialism. It's like, do they not realize the history of socialism? The history of socialism is poverty, despair, and violence. The only way you can enforce socialism is that one central authority gets to decide what you buy and sell, what you create. And if you disobey that law, it's the gulag, or it's prison, or it's famine. In Russia, 37 million people were killed. Tens of millions of people were killed by Mao in communist China. We fought wars against this. We had a Cold War for 70 years knowing Your generation knowing what an awful thing communism/socialism is. But really, the young people aren't getting it. It's an absence of choice. It's the government telling you what to do, what to buy and sell, and what you can produce. That's what socialism is. It's not you being able to make any decisions. It's the absence of choice. But it also leads to poverty. We are the richest, greatest, freest, most humanitarian country on the planet Earth. In all values. Just 2 years ago, they added up all of the money that we gave away. Not the government, that you gave away to your churches. That we gave away to our churches and charitable causes. Nearly $400 billion. So people say, oh, it's all about greed. No, you can't give to people if you don't earn any money. Does anybody go to the bank to get a loan to give to their church? No, you give out of your savings to your church or to the Salvation Army or the things you have. But you have to earn money. But we have to have an economic system that allows us to earn money, and that's capitalism. Capitalism is equivalent to freedom. The freedom to buy and sell and trade. So Sam Walton got really rich with Walmart, but nobody forced you to buy his stuff. He just sold a lot of stuff at a cheap price, and he got very wealthy. That's what freedom is about. But freedom's also, if we want to preserve it from one generation to the other, we have to convince the next generation that there is an opportunity for them. So you've got people saying, oh, it's over, it's all broken and it's all rigged. I don't think so. I think the American dream's still out there for you. I think you can experience the American dream if you're in high school today. Look, Bill Gates became the richest man in the world. His mother was a school teacher. He just had a great idea and he worked hard. Not everybody's going to be Bill Gates. Some of us wish we were, but we're not all going to be Bill Gates. But the thing is that if you do well in school, you can succeed in America. If you do well in a trade, you can succeed in America. If you're a hard worker, you can do great in America. So it shouldn't all be, woe is me, that's a terrible place to live. No, it's a great place to live. But we've got to protect it from the people who want to take away our choices, from the people who want to spend money we don't have. So we've now racked up a $20 trillion debt. We borrow $1 million every minute. And you say, well, maybe we need to spend that money. Well, I'll give you a few examples of where we're spending it, and you tell me if you think that's a good idea. We've spent $100 billion on infrastructure in Afghanistan. Highways, bridges, and schools in Afghanistan. Now, if you want to donate your money to that, that's fine, but we do not have enough money to repair our own roads. We don't have enough money to take care of our own, and we spent $100 billion over there. We spent $15 billion in Pakistan. So I proposed recently an amendment. We had $8 billion left in the foreign aid account. I said, why don't we put that in the transportation fund for our country? Why don't we just spend that here at home? And I lost up there, but I guarantee if everybody in Kentucky got to vote, I think I'd win that vote. Yeah. I also introduced an amendment and the concept that we shouldn't be giving any money to these countries that hate us. These people who burn our flag, we shouldn't be giving them not one red cent. I introduced an amendment about a year ago to end all foreign aid to countries that persecute Christians. You would think it would have passed unanimously. I haven't met anybody in Kentucky who's not in favor of it, and it failed, 18-2. And I asked, and this was Republicans and Democrats, I asked them, why do you vote to keep sending our money to people who hate us? Why would you vote to keep sending money to countries that persecute Christians? And they say, well, we're giving it to the moderates there, and by giving them money, we're asking them to behave. And I said, well, why don't we do the opposite? Why don't we withhold the money until they behave? But people say, well, who are these countries that persecute Christians? Well, there's about 30 countries that have as part of their laws that if you marry a Christian, you get the death penalty. If you convert to Christianity, you get the death penalty. And if you criticize the state religion. Now, we can't make these people like us. We can't make these people change their religion. But we certainly shouldn't subsidize a religion and a religious world that hates us. If they're putting Christians to death for conversion, for a Muslim to convert to Christianity to death, would you want any of your money to go to that kind of country? And yet, 18-2 in Washington, they voted against me to keep sending your money abroad to these countries. It happens. In Pakistan, there's a woman by the name of Asia Bibi. She's been on death row for 5 years. She went to the well to draw water in a small village. The women of the village began stoning her and beating her with sticks. As she fell to the ground bleeding, thinking she was going to die, she cries out for the police. The police show up and she thinks she's been saved, only to be arrested because the women of the village said she was critical of the state religion, Islam. You know, you can have whatever religion you want, I don't care. But the thing is, our government will leave you alone, but over there they'll put you to death. We won the war in Afghanistan. I was for going after bin Laden. I would have voted for going. But, you know, the government they replaced it with, in their constitution, has the death penalty for conversion still. Iraq, we won the war there. They have the death penalty for conversion as well. And Iraq's an unholy mess, and $1 trillion later, I don't know that we're getting safer. The people running the place now are just as bad or worse than the previous people running the place. Same with Libya. So we have to figure out how to defend our country and what we need to do in our national defense. But the one thing I do know is we're not stronger defending our country if we're borrowing $1 million a minute. Admiral Mullen, a career military man, said the biggest threat to our national security is our debt. They remember the Roman Empire? Got extended. They were everything to everyone. And then they started providing bread and circus. All the people out of work, they showed them the circus and the gladiators and all of that. But they ran out of money. It's what Margaret Thatcher said about socialism. Eventually you run out of other people's money. It's the same way for an unrestrained democracy. And that's kind of what we have. What do I mean by that? We were not intended to be a democracy. We were intended to be a republic, a constitutional republic. Your rights are from your creator, and the Constitution guarantees those rights and prevents the government from violating your rights. The Constitution isn't about restraining you, it's about restraining your government. But we've gotten away from that. We now have at least 4 members of the Supreme Court who think the Constitution is what, or that we can do whatever we want that the majority wants. But that's not what our Constitution says. If 51% of Congress wants to get rid of your freedom of religion, it can't happen. It's hard to change the First Amendment. And the First Amendment wasn't about telling you what to do about your religion. It was telling the government not to mess with your religion. Congress shall pass no law concerning your free exercise of religion, your ability to freely associate, your ability to speak, the ability to press. It's about what government's not supposed to be doing. But the thing is we have to be careful of people who believe that, oh, whatever the majority wants, that we're just going to fight wars around the world to make the world safe for democracy. That's what Woodrow Wilson said. But we're not a democracy. Why would we be fighting around the world to make the world something that we never intended to be ourselves? We have about 4 Supreme Court justices that do kind of believe in the Constitution. Some better than others. So it's about 4 to 4. 4 that believe in a living, malleable Constitution means anything, and then 4 that believe the Founding Fathers meant something when they wrote it down. And you remember then Justice Scalia dies. He was the 5th vote on the conservative side. When they passed the anti-coal regulations that are crippling eastern Kentucky, they didn't ask us. You elected me and I didn't get to vote. Neither did the House. Nobody voted. The president just did it on his own. Thousands of pages. The Supreme Court said when Scalia was alive that they were creating law out of whole cloth. They were just creating and making law that didn't exist. And they said, you've got to stop, and they stopped the president. So there's a stay right now on some of those regulations. But unfortunately, they're looming out there, and so all the utility companies are obeying them even though they haven't passed. And so we're being crippled and shut down. It's really important who gets to be the next Supreme Court justice. And that's why I've said I will not vote for any more from President Obama. He's done. No more. One of the biggest problems we face is the collapse of the separation of powers. So we're supposed to have co-equal branches of government, and they're supposed to check and balance each other. Madison said that we would pit power or ambition against ambition. Men and women naturally want power. Put somebody in power and they want more of it. In fact, Abraham Lincoln said that if you want to test a man, give him power. No, if you want to test a man's mettle, give him power and see if they can give it back. It was the true test of George Washington. He could have been king. He could have been anything, but he gave back the power. And that's an extraordinary thing. But we need the checks and balances again. We need Congress to step up and be more assertive. We need to control the power of the purse. We can't just let the president do whatever he wants. And we have to have more equilibrium between the branches of government, whether it's a Republican or Democrat. Now, if it's a Democrat, we certainly need to try to restrict them from getting their way because they'll make the government bigger and the debt larger. But even a Republican is going to need to have checks and balances. We can't let the regulatory agencies just run amok and do whatever they want. So if we can bring that into balance, if we can say government should only spend what comes in, We could obey the Constitution, a few other things. Let's see, term limits, balanced budget. Maybe I'll just go back home then. We'll get a few things done. But we got a few things we still need to do. And I am concerned about the direction still of the government. And so I think we need to keep fighting. I appreciate you being here today. I hope you'll help us in the fall. And what we really need is, there's a lot of Republicans down here, but we got to get them turned out. So there will be a big voter effort trying to turn out people for the election. You can help us with that. Albert's going to help us with that, and other of your officials down here. But we do need your help. We can't take things for granted. So I appreciate you coming out today and hope you'll be with us in the fall. Thank you.